Talk about those differences. Jamil, Jaffer, Evan Perez still with me. Jamil, first of all, you saw the former vice president say something there. Two things that Trump has never said. One, they shouldn't have been in my private residence. And two, I take full responsibility. Right. But beyond that, from a legal perspective, given the differences, are you surprised that the case is closed and there were no charges?
No, not at all. I think this is the right outcome. People make mistakes like this all the time. Mistakenly take classified documents out. They get counseled. They get a reprimand. They get something in their record. But it's qualitatively different when you decide I'm going to remove documents I know are classified. You don't go through the process of declassifying them if you have the authority to do so. By the way, thinking you're going to declassify them is not a way to declassify documents. The president said that repeatedly. That is false, unquestionably. And so this idea somehow that Pence has been cleared, it's exactly the right thing for the Justice Department to do. And now they're looking at Donald Trump, and he knowingly had these documents. He took them out, possessed them for a long time, and then when asked to give them back, failed to do so. That's the fundamental problem here.
So when you compare the Pence handling of this with the Biden handling, and we just had the graphic up on the screen, similar numbers there, a dozen, 20 versus several hundred that Trump kept. What do we know about the status of their handling of Biden's handling of the classified documents?
We know that at least one witness has already been talked to by Rob Hur, who's the special counsel who's doing the Biden investigation. We haven't heard much more about what parts of the investigation are doing. It's very common, again, as Jamil points out, these things are not uncommon, right? To find documents, return them to the government, say, take a look at it, see whether, again, they try to make sure that there was no damage done from the way these documents were stored. And then the Justice Department, completes the investigation and brings no charges. We don't have any reason to believe that there's anything like that, coming, obviously, in the Biden case. The Trump case is just in a different planet, right? I mean, the former president is thumbing his nose all throughout, claiming that, all different types of excuses as to why these documents ended up there. And, that's partly why we are where we are and why the Justice Department is still doing this investigation.
Okay. Just quickly before we go, there was a time of the many investigations that Trump is facing, you would hear legal experts like yourself say, classified documents one, that's the most likely one to face it, just because it's a hard thing. You had the documents, shouldn't have had them, physical evidence of that. The Pence and Biden revelations change the thinking somewhat, although they are different cases. As you look at the evidence that you know at this point, what's your sense of a possible indictment for the former president on classified documents specifically?
I think it's very hard for the Justice Department to not indict the president at this point, given what we know publicly at least. The problem, of course, is you have him running for office. He's a former president, now running for office again against a president who's in office, who's also running against him, who's admittedly a special prosecutor. I mean, this is politically extremely fraught. I would not want to be in the position of the Justice Department or the special prosecutor or the president having to think about what to do about these charges.
The obstruction is partly what makes this so much more complicated.
That's right.
Though, right.
I mean, a lot of layers to that legal onion. We'll continue to cover them. Jamil, Jaffer, Evan Perez, thanks so much for us.